this video, I would like to talk about online marketing psychology. Well, we have a lot of technical advances, and the internet has a lot of options for us to communicate with people. However, people are people with emotions, and people are still the same despite all the new technology. So therefore, you must understand how human behavior works, how people make buying decisions, and what motivates them to buy, where they're hesitant, where they have trust issues maybe, and how can you overcome the whole psychological barriers so that you can sell your products online. One of the things I mentioned before in the other video was that you are already a marketing expert. So you intuitively know already what works and what doesn't work. So whenever someone is trying to sell you something or is, writing something on the internet, you can kind of sense if it's BS or whether or not it's trustworthy. So therefore, because we're bombarded daily with emails, with phone calls from salespeople or companies, with commercials and so forth, and you already know what is effective and what is not effective. So therefore, whenever you use a new strategy, use common sense and also ask yourself, put yourself in the shoes of the buyer or the potential client. How would you feel if the situation was reversed? So therefore, all the, let's say, psychology and so forth might be great to know, but if it doesn't make sense or if the trust factor isn't there, then you're going to have a hard time selling your products. So one of the things that is very typical is the first non-threatening contact. So as you know, if someone runs an ad, let's say on Facebook, and you click on it, and then he's trying to sell you like a webinar or something like that, and you have to fill out this long form with name, phone numbers, emails, and everything, then most people are reluctant to fill out the form because they don't want another salesperson calling them constantly and trying to sell them something that they are not sure yet about. So therefore, the threshold is too high. Most people are only willing, let's say, to give their email address and their name, and that's it. And then the initial person who's trying to market to them has maybe the opportunity to build up trust through email marketing. On the other hand, if you send them something for free, let's say a book or a PDF or something like that, that gives the person, the client, an opportunity to make a first experience with you so that they understand, okay, is it, what I'm reading or seeing, is that something I like? Do I want to know more? And then you can approach them afterwards. So those are examples of first non-threatening contacts, and you should use them because you cannot expect to sell, let's say, a high ticket of $5,000 or $10,000 of a product right away, because that's not realistic. One of the principles that always works is curiosity. You know that the cat isn't the most curious animal in the world, it's the human. So humans are really curious, and sometimes if you just make one statement or one claim, people are curious and they click on it and then they get to the next level. So that's something you should incorporate always. So curiosity is number one. In this day and age, people are more so-called connected through Facebook and social media and so forth, but the problem is that people are actually starving for a human connection, and therefore you need to incorporate a lot of personal messages about you, a lot of personal videos, personal pictures and so forth, so people feel like they get to know you. For example, when I was listening to Brian Tracy or Anthony Robbins, when I was running or going for training, then I would hear them in my head constantly, and it felt like after a while like I knew them really well, like a good friend. And the same is true for your marketing. So the more interaction they have with you with video, the more they're going to feel that they can trust you. So therefore, you need to use a lot of personal videos, a lot of messages, also maybe from your private life and so forth, so you can establish that relationship. Because people, they don't like to deal with a faceless corporation. They need human interaction, and especially someone that they feel that they can trust. And if they feel they can trust you, then they will buy your products. Let's talk about mental triggers. Mental triggers are things that you should include in your sales letters, in your videos, and so forth. It's an important factor in the selling process. Now let's start. Authority. Authority is the first mental trigger. People tend to follow other people who have a position of authority. Let's think about a doctor in a white coat. Automatically, we don't question him. Automatically, we listen to him and believe in what he has to say because authority counts. So therefore, titles, if you wrote a book, for example, that gives you credibility, things like that, people like to follow specialists or professionals who have a certain status, and automatically, there's more trust there. Then the next factor is called reciprocity. Reciprocity is something like if you give something first, people have the need or the feeling like they need to give you something back in return so that we're back even. And usually if you give someone your free content first, then he's more likely to return the favor by buying your products. So he does something for you. Otherwise, there is like an imbalance emotionally where he feels like, oh my God, I've received so much and I need to give something back. And he can do that by buying your products. The next mental trigger is called trust. Obviously, if you have an established relationship, it is much easier to sell to that person because you already have a relationship. But it's also, if like a parent or a teacher or a friend or so forth, you will automatically believe what he has to say. So if there's a middle person, so to speak, in the sales process, and can also be like a celebrity, for example, because you believe that if a celebrity says something, you will automatically trust that person because you think that that person would never advertise, a bad product. So trust is an important factor. And then the next step is called anticipation. Remember when you were a kid at Christmas? Well, you couldn't wait for Christmas to happen because you wanted to have the presents, right? Or for your birthday, for example. So people deep down are still big kids, and the excitement and anticipation is what drives people, okay? So you can build up your sales process with, let's say several videos or several emails and say, hey, by the way, in 5 days, in 3 days, in 1 day, we will have the big, surprise coming, and people can't wait for those kind of things. So use anticipation. The next factor is called likability. Well, you will only do business with someone that you like. If you don't like the person, if you feel there's no connection, you won't do any business. It's not possible to make a sale if you're trying to sell someone who doesn't like you and vice versa. And therefore, you need to focus on the relationship with your clients no matter what you do, how you do it. Well, obviously, if you're doing online marketing, you need to, as I said, use a lot of personal messages, videos, and so forth. And even if they're not perfect, it doesn't matter. They just need to feel that you're there. And the more interaction they have with you, the more they will like you and the more they will trust you. Then the next factor is called community. We act in accordance to what people around us think and or how they, let's say, are supposed to act. So if it's like a tradition or people always do this because it's expected of, like going to church, and if you don't go to church, you're not a good person or something like that, then the community let's say, factor can get people to buy your products. If you say, well, we already have 1 million customers, everybody does it, it's the normal thing to do, and you should do it too because everybody else is doing it, then people feel like, okay, well, if everybody else is doing it, I have to do it as well. Then the next factor is called scarcity. If we perceive something as scarce, so it's not available in a big quantity and not everybody can have it, then it becomes naturally more valuable. Okay, so if something is rare or scarce, that makes it more special, and therefore it makes it more expensive, right? So let's think about diamonds or gold or things like that, or not everybody can have that, or a limited edition of, let's say, a car. There's only 100 cars of a certain model, of Ferrari or something. Well, automatically price goes up because not everybody can have it. So that's an important factor. And then social proof. So if we see other people taking action, let's say they're buying a certain product, then we will be inclined to do the same, because if the majority of people are doing something, then it can't be wrong, right? So that's that factor. Well, and finally, a mental trigger could be sex, because sex always sells. Well, if you have an attractive person promoting your products, it will give automatically more appeal to the product itself. So if people, let's say, like to buy a Ferrari, for example, and there's an attractive woman, promoting this, or let's say, oh, if you buy the Ferrari, you will attract attractive women, or something like that, then people are motivated to buy the product. Or you can use sex appeal. If you think about ice cream commercials, how someone eats the ice cream, and it's sexy to eat the ice cream. So however that is emotionally, it is a very powerful trigger. So remember, sex always sells. It's not appropriate for every product, okay? But if there is a connection or a way, well, it's a mental trigger and it works. Another factor is that people don't want to miss out on an opportunity. People actually hate to lose an opportunity. So if you say, like in your message, well, don't miss the chance, or here's what you will miss out on, then automatically the motivation to buy the product will go up. So people want to have the product because they're afraid to lose it, because maybe later on it won't be available to them anymore. Sometimes the product doesn't become all that important anymore. Alone the fact that the customer could lose the potential opportunity is the reason enough for him to buy. So obviously you need to use a time pressure timeline, where you say, hey, only to this day, and it's a limited time, and if you don't act now, you will miss out. So if you use those kind of factors, those are very powerful triggers, and they work. People always want something new. And when people know they're getting something new, then the desire for it will go up. So let's say if you say, well, this is a brand new product and it just came out and it's the latest thing, then studies have shown that people really want it and the desire will shoot up. People love getting a deal. So let's say, or to save money for that matter. Let's say you have a product and usually it is $200, but now it's 50% off, it's only $100. And then people are so motivated because they think, wow, it's a 50% discount, I really want to buy it. But the thing is that, let's say $100 might still be overpriced, when you look at the product. But psychologically, it doesn't matter, because getting a deal is all that counts for people. So sometimes you need to also make sure you position your product in such a way where, let's say, the value is, the price is $100, but the value that you're getting in return is like $2,000 worth, because you're, include this and this and this and this, and then people say, oh my God, this is such an amazing deal. I love getting a deal, and now it's only $100, and I'm saving so much money with this, then people will buy it. Okay, so remember to use that. Use the contrast principle, where you compare it to a lot of value, to a lot of things, and say normally it's $2,000, but now it's only $100, and it makes it so much cheaper, and that's what people are looking for. Also, time pressure. I mentioned this before. Time pressure is really important because the longer someone is waiting to make a decision, the less likely he's going to do it. So if a customer feels like they have all the time in the world to buy it, and maybe they can buy it later on, then there's no reason to act now. So that's why you must have a timeline where you say, look, it's only available till that day, and then it's no longer available, or then the price will double or will go up. And therefore, the time pressure is really, really important, because otherwise people don't have that need to act right now. Well, the main principle of motivation are two things. It's either avoiding pain or gaining pleasure. So those are the two driving forces for every human being. So when you know that, then you know, okay, if I use things to motivate him, that might be great. He can have this and that and so forth. But the stronger motivation is to avoid pain. So most people are driven by fear. And if you have that, if you want to try to avoid a bad situation, and you describe the situation in detail, then people have the need to stop it, and that's when they're motivated to buy. And then finally, ego, prestige, pride, comparison with others. People are very vain. People want to feel special. If they buy your product, how does it make them feel? Well, they're going to be better than the neighbor. They're going to be better than their friends. They have something special that not everybody else does. So people, even if they're, let's say, if everybody can have it, right? And if it's available to everyone, then it's not something that is very desirable. So people want something that's exclusive, that will make them feel superior. And so people want usually more money, lower cost, they want ease and convenience, speed, beauty, and ego status and recognition. So you should always include one or more of those things in your products or in your sales offers. And if you do that, then you're going to be much more successful.